Uno.
Hello, everyone. I think we are live now, so let's go for it. Thanks so much for being here with us in this session of Biospain. I am Simon Pereira. I will introduce myself and my colleagues in a second. I will first share a little presentation that we have prepared to go through it. So again, thanks for joining us in this session, how the gender diverse perspective can improve biomedicine. We want to explore a little bit this topic, what are the issues or some of the issues, what are some of the experiences we have as women or LGBT plus people, and what are the solutions or the actions that we can take to improve biomedicine through a gender diverse perspective. As we know, it has been already established that science, when it's made by more diverse groups of people, is better, gets to a stronger level of science. So first of all, if I may, I will introduce myself. I am Simon Pereira. I am a business development manager of ProtocUser, a company who does chemoinformatics and structural bioinformatics for drug design and toxicology. I am also an associated teacher at the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona, and among other scientific collaborations in different fields, I am most importantly today Secretary General of PRISMA, which is an association of LGTB scientists, professionals at large, students in science and technology. So today I have the honor of being accompanied in this roundtable by 4 people who represent several key aspects of the value chain of biomedicine. So I will let introduce themselves after me, but for a very brief introduction, we have Deborah Burks, who is director of the Príncipe Felipe Research Center in Spain, representing research in biomed. We have also Eva Pérez Nanclares, who is legal advisor at GlaxoSmithKline and ex-vice president of READY, the entrepreneurial network for diversity and LGBT inclusion in Spain. And she will represent the pharma, the legal sector, the industry, everything that's around research. Also, we have the honor to have with us Juan Cruz Sigudosa, Counselor of University, Innovation and Digital Transformation of the Government of Navarra, representing the policy sector around biomed. We have Maria José Rementeria, who is Social Link Analytics Team Leader at the Barcelona Supercomputer Center, representing a little bit research about these very specific topics of gender in biomed. And finally, we have Paula Olazabal, who is a partner of diversity and inclusion officer at Isios Capital, representing the funding, the venture capitals that also revolve around biomed. So I will let call on several of you to introduce yourselves, and then we will go on. I will take the presentation off. So Deborah, please.
Yeah, good morning, Simon. Thanks to you, and also many thanks to Biospain for organizing this very important workshop in your current meeting. Just a few words about myself. I have a PhD in pharmacology from Vanderbilt University. I did my postdoctoral training at the Joslin Diabetes Center at Harvard. After that, I moved to Spain. I've been here since 2000. In 2017, I was appointed as the director of the Prince Philip Research Center here in Valencia, Spain. We are a multidisciplinary biomedical research center. My field of expertise is diabetes, obesity, metabolic diseases. We have other lines in the center related to cancer and Alzheimer's, drug discovery. And as you are well aware, we are very committed to promoting women and diversity in biomedical research. It's one of our fundamental values. And again, thank you very much for inviting me to participate.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Eva?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for the invitation to participate in this event. I'm glad to share with you this morning to talk a little bit about probably my personal, but also kind of a few people experience in terms of these matters. About myself, I am a lawyer. I'm a former lawyer in Spain. I studied law, and then I studied a postgraduate at the King's College in London about copyright. I established my own law firm here in Spain back in 2007, and it is the micro-sized company that I'm running right now. I have 3 people working for me, and in that context, I give advice as a lawyer to companies as GSK. And also I work actively in LGTB activism in the context of companies. I set up with other 11 companies, READY, which is, as Simon mentioned, is the formal trade organization for diversity and inclusion in Spain. I've been for 4 years vice president, and now I'm working just closely with my other colleagues. And yeah, my motivation is to work all on behalf of human rights, particularly in terms of LGTB and women's rights.
Thanks so much, Eva. So following with the alphabetical order, we will go with Juan Cruz.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Juan Cruz Cigudosa. Currently, as you said before, Simon, thank you for the presentation. As I'm working now as a regional minister of university, innovation, and digital transformation here in the government of Navarra. And I think as for my biography, I study here in Pamplona. So I got here my degree and my doctorate in biology. I finished in 1987, which is a long way ago. But since then, my professional career has been focused mainly on research on human genetics and how human genetics can explain some diseases and cancer. I did my postdoctoral and predoctoral in several countries. I work in Sweden, in Manchester, in New York. I came back from New York briefly to Canary Island, where I got my position as a professional in human genetics. And then in 2000, I joined the National Cancer Research Institute in Madrid, the CENIO, and I was group leader there. I've been group leader there for 16 years now. Then also in 2008, I co-founded a biotech company called MinGenetics, which was dedicated to genomic biotechnology. I have also been president of the Spanish Association for Human Genetics and member of several other European associations. And finally, since August 2099, I was appointed, as I say, to be in charge of knowledge in terms of university, innovation, and digital transformation here in Navarra. A big jump from science and entrepreneurship to politics. I think we can discuss things later on. But I saw that as an opportunity to actually put in place and in action some ideas that we always, as scientists, we have. I used to say that I went the way from claiming for money to giving the money in a proper way. So I think we can discuss how can this, this kind of, promoting research and making funds and available for researchers can also have a clear and good input into the LGTB policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Juan. María José Rementería.
Thank you, Simon, for the invitation to participate in this panel. Well, I have to say that I do not belong to this bio. Are you going to put the screen?
I have the slides here. Yes.
You have the slides. Okay. Yes. Thank you. I wanted to present a little bit the Supercomputing Center. I cannot see the. Okay. Yeah, I'm working in the Supercomputing Center. This Supercomputing Center is not only a research infrastructure. We have the -4 at this moment, and we are going to have -5. As you see in the slide, the figures of what we have on this infrastructure. We have a very high capacity and data storage, and also a high capacity for calculation. We have the supercomputing is one of the it's in the ranking of the supercomputers. Is the actual one is in the 20 between the 20 more powerful supercomputers. And the next one, the -25, will be at the beginning the first one, and later on it will decrease because there are new ones. But in the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, we are not only an infrastructure. We are also a research center. We have 4 departments. The Earth department that works mainly on climate. Engineering department that works in simulation and on energy and all these kind of things, computer, as you can imagine, and the life department. I belong to the life department, and in this department we have 6 research groups and 5 support units. We are more than 150 scientists, and if you go to the next one, then we work on the mainly on personalized medicine. Here is a slide with the different groups that we have in the department for this, and I am the leader of the evaluation and social impact. This unit is the link between the society and the research groups. Okay, between the personalized medicine as research and the society, what the society thinks about this, and is the exchange of information between these 2 collectives, we can say. And also in my unit, we have I lead the Bioinfo for Women program. It's a program for the department, not for our unit. And we work in 3 main axes that I think that later on I can explain you, but not to be too long, okay? The only thing that I have to say is that I studied physics and I developed all my personal career in the aerospace field. And I just arrived to this bio field 4 years ago, okay? I think that I don't want to be longer, Simon.
No, thanks so much, Maria Jose. So for the last introduction, we have Paula.
Yes, well, hello everybody, and thanks Simon for having me here representing ISIOS. So, well, as you said, I'm a partner and diversity and inclusion officer of ISIOS Capital, who's the largest healthcare VC in Spain. And we are the first life science fund to achieve the diversity VC standard certificate. I will explain a little bit more later on the diversity VC, but just about ISIOS, we were founded in 2008. We manage 3 funds, which represent more than 400 million euros, and we invest in drug development companies. We're a team of 15 people from 6 different nationalities, and 60% of our team are women. Out of the 7 partners, 4 of us are also women, so you can see that we are a very diverse team. And that's one of the reasons that took us to get the diversity VC standard. This certificate sets an example and a benchmark for the VC industry on good practices on diversity and inclusion. So to get this certificate, so what we need to do is we need to have diversity and inclusion programs and policies in place. Deal flow metrics must be tracked, so we must understand if we're funding diverse companies, and practices to reduce bias in searching investments, but also we are introducing, for example, metrics or policies to reduce bias in hiring people. And so, well, as we complied with what was expected, we got the certificate in this summer. Of the companies that we fund, we have invested in 34 companies, 14 products have been marketed out of these 34 investments, and 40 products are already in clinical stage. So that's ISIOS, and as for me, I have a financial background, so not a biotech background, but I've been in the industry also since 2008, as I was one of the first employees at ISIOS.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very good news. The biotech, the biomed sector is a very diverse one, also in the type of professional profiles that it encompasses. And I think it's a very good news that in this session we have a lot of diversity in terms of gender and LGTB realities, but we also have an astounding diversity in professional roles. We have research in different topics such as pharmacology, drug development, genetics, artificial intelligence, but we also have people from the legal, the politics, the funding areas related to biomed. So I think that with all together we can really have a great conversation regarding the topic of gender diversity and equality and how this can improve biomedicine. So we will have a chat. We would like this to be a casual chat on 4 main topics. So I will just introduce them briefly now, and then we can go on to talk. The first topic will be our life, our experiences as, or your experiences really as women or LGBT people in the biomed sector. Then we will talk a little bit about data and concepts that we find in this intersection of gender diversity and STEM and biomed in particular. And then we will look for the solutions, what are the needs that we have, and what are the actions that we may or must, should take to really arrive to have full equality, full diversity, and thus better biomed sector. So with this, we go to the first part, and I will make one question. If any of you wants to begin, and then you can discuss freely or explain freely what are your experiences. The general question here is, how has been your experience in the biomed sector as a woman or as an LGBT people? How do you feel, or how do you know that this has affected you throughout your professional development or your professional development? I leave the answers for you. Whoever want to begin. We have more or less 8 minutes for this. Or I can appoint Paula, who is in my screen, for example, to begin.
I can start, yes. Okay, so in my case, I haven't suffered. I must admit, I haven't suffered discrimination. And well, as I said, I'm one of the first employees at Isios. And at Isios, diversity is in our DNA. The founding team was gender balanced. 60% of us are women. So we have always looked for the best candidates independently of gender, race, or sexual condition. So for me, it has been really easy. And I must admit that, yes, I have always felt the support and understanding of senior management. And I have never felt differently treated. But I do think that this comes from the diverse management team that we have. I think that diverse management teams make it easier for the junior level to feel welcome and to keep promoting this diversity.
Thank you, Paula. I know how some of our other members do have felt other realities, at least around them. So that would also be good to hear.
I can tell you a little about my experience, and I certainly agree with Paula that in general, science theoretically is very egalitarian. I mean, in science and research, we value neurons and not gender per se. But oftentimes this is a case when reality is a bit different from theory. And I think as a graduate student and as a postdoc, I felt completely supported and free to pursue my goals in the laboratory. When I began to feel a bit more alone, and I would say not discriminated against, but certainly judged, was when I moved up the scale. So when I became a senior researcher, and certainly when I became a director of an institute. And as I previously explained, I think as a postdoc, you're in a much more diverse environment. And in my current position as a director, I've gone back to a situation that I didn't really think I would ever experience again, which is very often being the only woman in the room in a meeting. The other directors of the other research foundations that I share meetings with in Valencia are in general males. And so I think it's a question not exactly of discrimination, not of an open discrimination that women often feel as we move through the upper ranks of promotions in science, but rather more subjective things that are more difficult to quantify. And certainly if one has a family, children, this becomes also much more difficult to share duties as a senior scientist and whatever your domestic responsibilities are.
Thank you, Deborah. We had listened to some similar remarks in some of our previous conversation with Maria Jose, for example, around her.
Yeah, yes. Well, as I said before, I studied physics and I developed all my professional career in the aerospace. And I was working in the European Space Agency in the 90s, okay, in Germany. And we were very few women there. In fact, I was the only one in women in the department. But what I can say is that I was really well considered. I was listened and I was appreciated, and I didn't feel any discrimination. And perhaps it's because it was in the 90s, I don't know. And we were women at that moment, we were kind of exotic workers there, okay? But I feel really comfortable working there. But just 4 years ago, when I arrived to the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, Then what I saw is a different situation there for women. Okay, what I saw that was excellent women bioinformatics, that they were research, but they were a little bit invisible to the other to their colleagues. Okay, they were in a secondary position. They didn't have a powerful position in the projects where they're working on, and the other members of the teams, sometimes they didn't consider their opinions or their scientific criteria. Okay, they were in, I can say, secondary position. And on top of this, what I realized that they were not women as independent investigators in our department at that moment. Now we are 5, okay, then because we have changed the situation. And then for that reason, at that moment is for what we decide to start with this, create this program, Bioinfo for Women program, to support this outstanding woman to reach relevant positions. We focus on the step for going from a senior postdoc to a junior independent investigator, okay? Because it's a difficult step for everybody, but we consider that for women is a little bit harder.
I completely agree, and that's a fundamental step.
Yeah, it's a fundamental, and it's difficult for women. And then a lot of times they have to move to another country, they have to move their families, and it's hard to take that decision. It's difficult. And then that's the reason why we create this program, and we work in free access on that program, in the support of the women research career, to create an international community for supporting a network, international network, and we have our own research line on sex and gender bias, on health and artificial intelligence. Okay, I think that at this moment we have a quite complete program. We want to extend to the rest of the Barcelona Supercomputing Center because we think it's important. And one important point that we have realized is that that is absolutely necessary to include the gender perspective in the research projects. If you want to develop science of excellence, if not, you are only looking at one part of the science, you do not have a complete view. I don't know if you want to, I explain more on
no,
the,
I think, thank you.
The rest of the participants I cannot, okay, sorry.
Thank you, Maria Jose. No, that's very interesting. And you also introduce some points of the needs that we have and the actions that we should take, that we will talk a little bit deeper afterwards. So I see we have now an LGBT part remaining to this question with Juan and Eva. I would like to invite Juan to talk first, because Eva will talk about the two realities at the same time. So I think it's a very good time to hear Juan's experience.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm okay. Yeah, thank you for the question. I think as Maria Jose was saying before, there is a lot of measures that we can take, each one from our point of action. But I think the question has to be, at least this question to me, is more of how I live my personal experience as a gay man, as a gay scientist, and as a gay entrepreneurship, and as a gay politician in my life. And I think the main conclusion to me is that I don't know if it's very blunt what I'm saying, but it's too tiring to be in the closet every time you move from one job to the other. I think, to me, if I had to say something about it, it's just a little bit, exhausting to explain yourself and to the others that you are gay and you are okay while you do your life. And that is something that is very tiring, and it's is draining our energy to things that we should be doing instead of explaining ourselves to the others. And I think we should make a lot of effort to improve that kind of closeting, each time you go to a new job. And I think we can talk about the sticky floors and crystal ceilings, and we can discuss later on measures to avoid them. But as a personal work, we have to stop doing that. And I have to say that in my scientific life, I didn't have that much problem about it. When I found the company, I had problems because certain ecosystems, mostly financial ecosystems, are reluctant to this kind of conversations in the open. They can talk about their families. We feel like we cannot talk about them. And as I'm very happy to say, as a politician, I have not experienced such a need to be in the closet again. And to me, it was a relief. This change from the economical world to the politician world, to me, has been a relief and an experience. We can discuss that, how can use my experience to be implemented in the science plans. But to me, I have to say that to be a politician has been a freedom feeling in my life as a gay man.
Thank you, Juan. Let's hear what Eva also has to share.
I have so many things to share actually in this matter, in this subject. But to be concrete, what I would say is that as my condition of open lesbian woman, working as an entrepreneur as well, but priorly working as a former worker in various organizations, I had different experience in terms of probably not precisely discrimination, as Paula said at the beginning, or Deborah, that it's difficult to feel exactly discriminations openly, but there are micro invisibilizations, or whatever is the word, as Maria Jose was mentioning. And in my particular case, what I felt, and I keep feeling as a lawyer, generally speaking, not biomedical, but lawyer sector, is a lot of paternalism. And we are treated as if we need to be, guide, teach, monitorized. And it's very, very typical in a legal or in an entrepreneurial context to actually say something, express an idea, express a strategy, and then your male, counterpart, or probably the opposite lawyer or whoever is in the other side, but it's this kind of men that actually keep your comment, take your comment, make it like his, and explain it to you as if that would be their own idea. This is something that I think every woman in this country, I would say because it's probably a little pretentious, but I think all of us have experienced, and I keep experiencing this every single day or every single week. And for instance, my colleagues in my assistants and my colleagues in my law firm always laugh when I again tell them this again is happening. At the beginning, I thought that this was happening to me because I was young woman, and then I became older. I'm already 48, and it's keeping happening to me. What that means that actually they feel at a certain point that we need to be, monitored or whatever because we are women, and then there are the other part of the issue that actually has to be linked with the fact that I am a lesbian. At the beginning, as probably Juan has mentioned in their own experience as a gay man, I was in the closet. There is a few stages in this particular experience, in my life experience. I, at the beginning, as many of us, been in the closet for many, many years. Then I be open in family and stuff, friends, and I get married, and I have a a kid. So that was obviously a time where there was no more closets at all, but there is a difference between being in the closet and being openly saying to everyone, as Juan mentioning, every single work, every single client, every single hello, this is me, and I am a lesbian woman. The lesbian community that I'm part of, which is called Les Working, that is a net of professional lesbian women that actually put our things together and try to connect and take projects together and get connected. We always tell that you keep all the time having to tell everyone that you are precisely a lesbian woman, but many of our colleagues in that net actually are in the closet. These women are married women, obviously with other women, and sometimes in kind of high level in the companies and high level in the professional positions, are in the closet in terms of the work and in terms of their career. And obviously that's a reason. I mean, if you ask them, they probably would say, no, I never get discriminated with anyone. Nobody discriminated me because I was a lesbian, but just the fact that they don't feel free enough or safe enough or protected enough, or at least neutral enough in their environmentals to be able to be open, that is something actually to be thinking about. So we are the 3 or 4 colleagues that are openly talking to everywhere where we are called, like this event. The 3 or 4 that we are openly invisible lesbian women, we are the minority. Many of our colleagues are absolutely in the closet because they feel they will have consequences, and obviously it's not going to be good consequences. Having said that, I have to say that the precisely biomedical sector that I work as part of other clients is a very good sector in this aspects. I mean, I haven't felt any kind of discrimination, nor in GSK, nor in any other pharmaceutical companies that I work for, and I'm currently work for. I think there are pharmaceutical companies precisely because probably are multinational companies with other, politics in general, global politics in that particular thing in other countries, and because Spain is a quite advanced country in terms of LGTB laws, I never found any kind of discrimination. But as I said, in GSK and in other companies, if you ask for how many lesbian women you can find in that huge amount of people that is work for this kind of companies, you will probably find 1 or none. And it's obviously something that means a lot.
Yes, thanks. Thanks so much, Eva. That's some of the things you have already been covering, some of the things that we wanted to share as data, as facts. So as time is also running a little bit, I will remember everyone who is watching us that there is opportunity to write your questions, and we will have a Q&A session in the end. If we don't have enough time, we will personally get back to you with the answers. The second part of our conversation was going to be, or is going to be, about data. If you're okay with that, I will only briefly present some of the data, some of the concepts that we are working with when we talk about gender and LGBT plus diversity, and then I will also let you speak freely a little bit more in depth about those concepts. So these concepts have already been introduced in the conversation. In fact, we have the gender scissors. So the fact that especially in the biomed sector, a lot of women begin in the scientific career. They are even most of the students in predoctoral levels, but more and more women get left behind in the scientific career, so that men cope most of the positions in higher ranks, and that obviously is a problem. This is very related to the glass ceiling, the fact that when women have it more difficult to arrive to these positions, and that also means that, for example, in this graph we have a comparison of money, of rent for the same studies. Women earn in some of these studies a lot less than their male counterparts. So glass ceiling, of course, a second problem. In fact, in Prisma, we have thought a lot about this, and we have found that inequality has at least 3 different phases. We have talked often of the many phases of LGBT phobia in STEM, but I think we can talk about the many phases of inequality. So inequality is exerted against people. So we have closet, as we were talking in the case of LGBT people, but women also share discrimination and harassment. So this is common to different types of inequality. We have the phase of knowledge. So when we get to a biased knowledge, to a knowledge that is built with biases, and we will talk a little bit later for artificial intelligence, this promotes the inequality that it keeps existing. And there's another phase which is the system, the all of the people who work in science, when they do not exert their social responsibility to talk against bad uses of science, for example, of biology, against women or against LGBT people, then we have this support that the system is exerting towards inequality. So we have these many phases of inequality, and then we also have what effects inequality has. We have previously talked about the 3 gaps that LGBT gaps in STEM. You have here a press article that you can read if you're interested to get more in depth in Spanish. But again, we think that these gaps apply to inequality in a broad sense. So we have a talent gap, the same that we talked before. Non-normative people have lower entry in the scientific careers, in the scientific world, and they have a higher attrition rate. We have a design gap. So innovation results sometimes leave behind non-normative people, for example, because there were no women in the design teams of brass. That is one real example. And then we have an access gap. So we know that non-normative people, so people for whom the system is not thought, and this, as we live in a patriarchal system, which is also cis and straight system, this encompasses women and LGBT people. We have this access gap, for example, sometimes regarding health systems. So these are some of the concepts that we think are important to discuss when we are discussing the gender equality that we need to have a better biomed sector and a better science. We also have the biases in artificial intelligence. We will leave that for a couple of minutes afterwards. But I want to give you the opportunity to share freely if you have thoughts regarding those concepts. Just I ask you to be very specific because we will have 10 minutes for this last part of the concepts and the solutions.
If I may, Simon, I think concerning the results of the inequity in generating those gaps, I think we sort of discussed the idea of that the gaps of talent. I think we need to work in which are the barriers and to identify them and promote, provide the people with systems to, to avoid these barriers or to get over them. I think that is important, something that Prisma has to do and something that many people has to do. But I'd like to focus, just to be brief, into the design gap. I think we all know that many clinical trials, many experimental designs are trying, are not including any kind of non-normative people within them. I think this is something that should be reinforced by any clinical committee that is, actually authorizing any kind of clinical trials. Had to be a segmentation of the population. I probably Maria Jose will know a lot about it, but I think that is important. But from my point of view, which I'm now a legislator and launching calls for doing research, I think from my point of view, my action or my recommendation will be that we have to launch any research or scientific or clinical call with a clear message for LGTB people into the letter of the call. If you be reflected there, then you will know that you have the options. And this is something that is important. And I think we should be, and at least we are doing it in Navarra, every single call has a specific gender perspective included in it as a compliance for the researchers. It also have a double effect in terms of you are not from the LGTB community, you will see that there are some. And then if you belong to the community, you will see that your point of view is taken into account. And I think that's very important to me. So try to mitigate the design gap from my point of view will be more open and include any references on this kind in terms of, calls, projects, PIs and everything.
Thank you.
Juan, congratulations for that initiative. I think that's absolutely fundamental that we start with when the calls are published, that they have that incorporated. And I'd like to address the pay gap, the inequality in the salaries between men and women. We've discussed before, we said this with Eva, discrimination is often very subtle and can't be quantified, but something that we can certainly quantify as intelligent scientists is pay gap. I mean, this is now a requirement from the national government that all companies have to analyze and report what women in the same category and what men earn yearly. I mean, this is very easy to quantify. The first year that I was director here in the center, before this was a national requirement, we did that analysis. And you know what we found out? That in the category of senior researchers, men were earning $14,000 a year more than women. I mean, this is unacceptable in the current situation. When you take into account that we're doing the same work, we have the same qualifications, the same experience, it is unacceptable that we still have pay gaps in the market. And if we are to retain talent, and if we are to help these young women become senior investigators, we also have to motivate them with equality where it really matters, I'm sorry, but is in your paycheck. And so I'm an activist, a feminist from the 80s and the 90s. And I'm still saying the same thing I did as a graduate student in the 80s. Equal pay for equal work.
Thank you.
Yeah, Deborah, I think you said something really interesting. So if we want to promote junior women, and that's that's one of the thing that we find more difficult. So we need to have senior profiles that set examples in order to promote junior people growing and diverse junior people, not only women. But as I said, so for Inicius, it was easy because I did have role models above me, and it was natural for us, for women, to be represented in the management team, and so it was easy for me to grow, I must say. But we need these examples, and we need to mentor women, to mentor diverse people to find themselves. So
it's very
it is
important for motivating them.
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, yeah, pay gap must be tackled, but also there's something there that we must do on helping them, on helping women especially, to really take the career and feel comfortable and feel powered and keep advancing, not be left behind, or not feel that they must be left behind. I think there's something there that is common to women, is to be easily set aside. So feel to be normal to be set aside, and yeah. So.
If I can say something, okay. What I see in my experience, that there are times, several times, that women, they have the knowledge and the skills required to a high position, okay, but they do not want the desire to go to that position. They feel more comfortable in the same position that they are at the moment, but changing a little bit the group or the project or whatever, okay, using their knowledge and their skills and so on in a different field, but not going to a high hierarchical position, because in a high hierarchical positions there are other duties. So they have to travel more, or they have to do presentation, financial problems, and so on. And there are times that the women, they prefer to stay in the same hierarchical position inside an organization. This is something that I've seen. Okay.
I think that exactly is a key aspect, the thing that you have mentioned, Maria Jose, because we are one person with different aspects in our lives. We are professionals, we are family individuals, we are I don't know, daughters, mothers, or no, or sisters, or whatever, and the change has to be integral and in every single aspect, because that's exactly what you are mentioning is what's happening as well in informal lawyer careers, in judges, and you look at the students at the law school, and there are 90% women, and you just have to have a look to the high level of judges in Spain, for instance, as an example, but I guess it's happening in every single country probably, that there are non-women, because women, as you're mentioning, want to have a good professional career, but they want actually to actually share that space as well with the family, and that is impossible to be done unless you have someone beside you that actually help you out, because it's impossible to be done by yourself. And if you're a single mother, that's another issue. You need any other support, mainly from the state or the government or whatever. But if you are in a couple, that is a very interesting aspect about lesbian couples. There is a research in Europe, I can't remember exactly the dates, probably Simon knows more than me, that actually conclude that the lesbian couples were much more equal in terms of co-responsibility with children, with home, and in that exactly case, and I have many friends in lesbian other couples that actually happens the same, that our way of behaving both in the house and outside the house, to actually have to be able to have the two aspects of our life together running at the same time. It's much easier when there are two women, and that should not be taken for granted. That means that actually men have to be done something about that in heterosexual couples, for instance. No, so I don't think that we as women, we as a 52% of the population, we don't want to have other duties or other more responsibility or go higher. I think besides what you mentioned, Maria Jose, is that there are more difficulties and it's much more hostile, because you are going to be probably the only one in the whole board of whoever, or the only, and that is a tough thing. I mean, we are tired to be all the time, as Deborah mentioned, saying exactly, it is unbelievable that we are still asking for be equal paid. You listen other colleagues, as I listened, Deborah, and said, we are in 2021, for God's sake. I mean, we are still asking for the same things. And it's so, sometimes you get even, angry, because it's like, no, there's no point to be seeking for the same recognition, and then you keep calm, think again, okay, let's go further. We think about our daughters and our sons, and we need to go further. But to be honest, I mean, if men are not going to be able to come to the fight and to become with us, this is not going to be happening at all, because it's absolutely impossible. I agree totally with programs, as Juan mentioned. I think the law and the system sadly had to be compulsory, still has to be compulsory, because the other way is not going to happen, the change. And thank God, probably I don't know if we are going to see it, but in a close future, we will find a world where these kind of things should not be compulsory. But right now is the only way. Because if it is not, things are going to be standing as they are, probably. Sorry, I talk too much.
Thank you. No, thank you, Eva. Thanks all. It's not very clear to me at what time we will end, if in 3 minutes or 18, because there's a little confusion with the program. So just let's get finishing. One of the things that we wanted to do with this session was to answer the question, how can we improve biomedicine through gender diversity? We've been talking, we've been sharing some problems, but happily, all of the problems we've shared also came with some solutions and some actions. So we talk about creating specific research and training programs to promote women in research, such as the Bioinfo for Women program in the Barcelona Science Supercomputing Center. Sorry. We've talked about including the gender perspective in research. I think that should be also compulsory, and we should integrate not only gender understood as a men versus women, but also as LGBT perspective. And I think we should also include diversity, a diversity perspective more in general. That was going to be one of my questions. There are other axes of diversity or axes of oppression, as they are something called. We have ethnicity, we have functional diversity. So how can we also include this perspective? We've talked about more solutions. For example, including non-normative people in clinical trials was one of the suggestions of Dr. Juan Cruz. We've talked about quantifying pay gaps to end with and make it compulsory to end with pay gaps. So equal pay is another clear solution. More, we've talked about visibility, the need to make visible the role models that that can help women, LGBT people to have a willing to go for science. And also I think we could encompass there establishing mentorship programs with senior women and or LGBT people with junior researchers or junior people in the biomed sector. And there's also promoting internal growth was one of the solutions that Maria Jose commented. They confirm me we have a little more time, so if I will use only one slide to comment on another, or no, I will not use the slide. But in Prisma, we have also developed 10 measures that can or should be implemented in research centers, in universities, to get full equality for LGBT people, but also for women and for other non-normative people at large. They encompass most of the things you had said. We have for other additional things that we could talk about, like safe channels, safe spaces, safe protocols to react and to prepare for possible cases of real or potential discrimination, harassment, uncomfortable situations that may arise. We have also equal opportunities, job openings. That was also one of the things Juan commented. And we have one question that I think it's a good time to include it, which is if you are in favor of positive discrimination, so biasing the recruitment and appointment selection for poorly represented communities, gender, race, religions, is a question that we have from Julio Martin. I leave it that for you after I end up speaking. And in Prisma, we also determine that we have the responsibility, as we said before, to reject officially pseudo-scientific arguments that are used against women and LGBT people. So we have that question on positive discrimination, if you're in favor or not. There's another question here that it's from Rosa Gomez in IBIMA. She's asking, what do you think the key points are to touch and put in value regarding gender, LGBT plus perspectives, and so on, regarding Horizon Europe, when where there is a question on gender perspective. And my question to all of you would be also, we are here, we are in this event, Biospain, which is organized by ACEBIO, the Spanish Association of Bio Companies of the bio industry. It's organized as well by the government of Navarra, which we are very happy to have here as a representative, the Counselor for Universities, Innovation and Digital Transformation. And we have also, it's also organized by Sodena. I would not like to think, Juan, that I am putting homework to him in person, but the question would be, what can we ask as Prisma, as entities, as people who are committed to gender diversity in biomedicine? What can we ask to get done? Where should we put efforts for entities such as national governments, regional governments, national industries? What should we ask for? So you have these 3 questions, and after that we will have a wrap up and goodbye.
Okay, I think I'm trying to be as telegram as possible. Telegram. To the first question about positive discrimination, yes, I'm in favor. We are doing it, and I will keep doing it until I think that things are okay. So no doubt about it. I mean, I'm promoting positive discrimination for providing science to territory, to small towns and cities. So why I would not favor positive discrimination for a problem that we have really in our lives. Second question, I think I think that we have to work together in several aspects, but one of the major issues here is education. We are seeing the problem from our age, but really the only and final solution will be promote something better with people that are actually in primary and secondary school. That is where we should focus, really. I mean, we should, solution our problems that we have now, but we have to keep in mind that next generation, we have to be better than we are in this term. So we have to put on effort in education, in primary and secondary education. Regarding the second question about the points, I think they will take too long, but I think we should be, we would provide these IBIMA people from how we actually write the calls to include those points, and then they will have the guide there. And the third question, to me, very important, is what Prisma and other alikes have to do. Just be there. I mean, this forum has been, possible because you and I, because I'm a member of Prisma, we are here. We have to be there and, and really provide testimony. And, just the first step is recognition of the problem, and we are doing that.
Thank you so much, Juan.
Yeah. I will actually, I agree totally with everything that Juan already mentioned. In the first place, I would like to talk and how entities, entrepreneurs, companies, organizations in general, both public and private, need to actually do something actively against bad references.
Yeah.
I'm focused now in that because we are in times here in Spain, but mainly in the whole world. We are in times in where the polarization is getting to a place where there are existing right now examples every day in the papers about bad references for being a woman or for being LGTB. Every time I talk about being a woman, I actually get a little bit angry again, because I think we are discussing this issue as if we were a minority, and we are not. But it's still something to be done about it. I mean, I'm kind of ready to talk about as a minority, as a LGTB community, because we are a minority, and that's fine. But as women, that we had to behave as if we were a minority, that is something to be a little bit angry about. But nonetheless, this is the situation, and we have to go further. No? So everybody needs, every institution needs to be done something actively and openly against the bad references, whichever the case is, because that would be not just something to actually that, because simply this will make people doing a step back. I don't want to be in the papers for this reason. I don't want to be attacked in whichever, my work, the street. So let's keep myself hide. Let's keep myself, as Maria Jose mentioned, not going very farther in my career, because I want to be. I'm just afraid about my integrity as a person, as a woman, as an LGTB. So the bad references are having an expanded effect that has to be cut directly from the institutions and the companies. The other thing linked with that, and answering about whether I believe or not in positive discrimination, I already mentioned, and I am a lawyer, so you have to excuse me, but being a lawyer, I go back to law, and going back to law, the law in Spain already are quite strong in terms of equality, for instance, gender equality. And the thing that actually the governments have to be done lately is to make it effectively observed, because the law exists, but if the companies or whoever doesn't look at it and nobody actually check that the law is being applied, does not really mean. I'm talking about the gender equality law, which is I think it's from 2005, if I remember myself. Sorry, I don't have the exact date. So the law exists, but beside the law has to be in institutions, in companies. I know that pharmaceutical companies, for instance, are an example of a strong compliance politics internally. And that is very, very important. Companies don't need external law sometimes to do the right thing, because they are big enough and they are important enough to apply their own politics. And my experience with big companies is that they have sometimes a strong politics than the law outside. So the frame is normally already there. The only thing that you need to look at is to probably make it enforced and make it apply. So and yes, please, Juan, as from your government, and I agree totally about the education thing. It's absolutely essential. If you don't have that from I mean, sometimes kids actually go back to home and educate their parents.
Yeah. So thanks, Eva. Thanks. Now we have 3 more minutes. Maybe we can wrap up with your own conclusions. Deborah.
Address the question from Rosa about the Horizon European program. And I think this is a very important mechanism that we can all support. And the European Commission several years ago has created the Innovation Through Gender support group. And I think this is a very important source of information for developing the European policy. And Europe learned from a very negative experience about a decade ago, because they invested very heavily in the Human Brain Project. I mean, this is enormous funding to recreate the human brain. Well, surprise, surprise, what they were recreating was a male brain, because there were only male researchers involved in the project, and their perspective to recreating the human brain was therefore very conditioned by the investigators that were working on the team. And this changed because groups of women started to complain about the process. And I think this is a very important learning experience for Europe. So in the Horizon 20, in the new Horizon program, they've marked other values, which are a smarter, more sustainable, more inclusive Europe. And in order to achieve that, diversity has to be a fundamental value. Inclusion of women, LGBT, all of these perspectives make for better science and stronger conclusions that we can derive from the investment of public money in research.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Maria Jose and Paula, I think you wanted to add something, and that will be the last remarks that we will have.
Well, if I can add something, I will say that it's needed to have multidisciplinary and inclusive teams to develop science, okay? Because as Deborah said, a lot of times there are only men teams, and if you want to have the total view of the problem, then you need to have multidisciplinary teams, okay, including women, LGBTI, different races, and as much as possible, okay? It's not always possible, but as much as possible, okay? If you really want to develop science of excellence. If not, you are only looking at one part of the problem. But I think this is important to say. And of course, with the positive discrimination, I totally agree with this. I think it's needed to have this. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more thing that I wanted to add, and I agree with the positive discrimination is needed as of today, and hopefully will not in the future. However, I think we cannot fall into undervaluing candidates and hiring diverse profiles just for promoting diversity. So women can't keep hearing that they are an asset just because they are a woman. So it's great because I need a woman. It's great that you're here because I did need a woman for the application or whatever. We cannot keep hearing this. We are an asset because of the person that we are, not because we are women. We need to work on having the best profiles and must make sure that we send examples for junior people. They need to see that they can do it, whoever they are or whatever they are.
Yeah, I think, okay. Yes, I agree with you, Paula, but this is not positive discrimination. That is quota system. Quota is something, and positive discrimination is in equal conditions you choose the underrepresented gender, which in some cases is women, and in Navarra, in some cases are men. So I think it should be in that way.
That I completely agree. Yeah.
And I mean, I just to go to another place. So please, I think I agree with you with the main message. Diverse science is a better science and it's a real science. And believe me, my commitment from my government is that we will focus on that.
So we will end on that remark. Juan Cruz, thanks so much to you, to the government of Navarra, to Acebio, to Sodena, and to all the people that has been involved in this session. Also to all the attendants, Maria Jose, Eva, Paula, Deborah. Thanks so much.
Thanks to all of you. It was great.
Thank you.
And let's
go.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.